Hello, math makers. Thank you for joining me for another math lesson. We are continuing our look at subtraction with M1000. Today, we're going to look at solving word problems using the cubes method. Now, we've done the cubes method before, but of course, I want to review what all the different steps are. We know that each letter in cubes stands for a different step that will help us solve word problems correctly. Read these with me. C stands for, circle the numbers. U, underline the question. B, box the keywords. E, eliminate extra information. Get rid of it. S, solve and label your work. All right. Now, as we get started, there's always some math terms I like to go over just to make sure that we are familiar with them, because you might see them in a word problem, and I want to make sure it doesn't trip you up. So when we have a subtraction problem, the whole thing is called an equation. The first number in a subtraction problem is called the minuend. The number you're taking away or subtracting is called the subtrahend, and the answer is always called the difference. That's why when somebody asks you what the difference between two numbers are, you would subtract to find that out. Now, because we're doing word problems, these words, these little keywords, are very important to know. Read these with me. Difference, less than, take away, minus, fewer, leftover, or have left, remain, or how many more. If you ever see one of those words or phrases in a word problem, you probably have to subtract. Now, some other things you might see. You might need some of these to help you solve it. Less than. If a number is less than another number, it's smaller than that number. For example, 123 is less than 321. Greater than. Read it with me. If a number is greater than another number, it is larger than it. For example, 500 is greater than 200. Decrease. Read it with me. If numbers decrease, they get smaller. These numbers decrease. 500, 400, 300, 200, 100. They're getting smaller. Last, we have regroup. When you regroup, you rearrange or form in the different groups. For example, for every 10 ones, there'd be a 10. Backwards, for every 10, there's 10 ones. And for every 10 tens, there'd be 100. And let's do it backwards. For every 100, there's 10 tens. If you know that, that will help. And last, make sure you know your place value. This is the, say it with me, ones place. This is the tens place. And this is the hundreds place. It tells you how many hundreds there are. The digits are the numerals that make up a number. For example, this number, 523, has 3-digit number. We can write it as a number. We can write it with words, 523, or use expanded form or expanded notation, 500 plus 20 plus 3. I like us to know how to do this because it really helps us solve addition and subtraction problems. Are you ready? Let's get started. Read our first problem with me. There were 365 books on one bookshelf and 241 books on another. How many more books were on the first bookshelf? Step 1, of course, is circle the numbers. And what are the numbers? That's right, 365 and 241. What's our next step? Underline the question. And what is the question? How many more books were on the first bookshelf? Remember, don't get stuck and just do this bottom line. Go all the way back to where the question begins. What's our next step? Box the keywords. That's correct. Do you see any keywords in that question? How many more? Very good. Our next step, what is it? Eliminate extra information. This one doesn't have any extra information. I always look at the sentences, and if a sentence has anything circled or boxed or underlined, we can't get rid of that. But if there's ever a sentence with nothing in it, you can probably get rid of it. That's probably extra information. So our last one is going to be to solve and label our work. So we know that we are doing how many more, which means subtract. So we're going to subtract 365 minus 241. Now for this one, I'm going to use our place value blocks or base 10 blocks for the rest of them today? I am not. I just want you to see it. All right, so I built 365. And now I'm going to subtract 241. I'm going to go ahead and use expanded notation and break that up into 200 plus 40 plus 1 because it lets me know how many to take away from each column because I have my hundreds, my tens, and my ones. Just like I have here. I have my hundreds, my tens, and my ones. So I'm going to start by subtracting 2 100s. I'm going to cross those off. And I have 165 left. 165. Nothing changed there, so those stay the same. Next, I'm going to subtract 40, which is 4 tens. I've gotten rid of those. Again, my 100 stayed the same. How many tens do I have left? 2. What does that make? 20. Did my ones change? No, they didn't. They stayed the same. So our answer is going to be 125. So I've done my hundreds. I've done my tens. It's now time for my ones. How many ones do I cross out? Just 1. So I still have 100. I still have 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. So my answer is 124. So 365 minus 241, 124. And if we're going to label it, let's go ahead and do our sentence. We're going to use our question to write our sentence. There were 124 more books on the first bookshelf. Now again, I'm just walking you through the questions. I'm showing you how to solve them. I want you to pay attention and maybe try to solve them with me on your paper if you want to. And that way maybe it'll help you remember. That will be the last time we use that place value blocks though. So our next question, read this with me. Marquise and Mason have been collecting books to give to some schools. So far, they have collected 237 books. They are giving 119 books to their school for reading week. How many books will they have left? What's step 1? Circle the numbers. That's right. What are the numbers? 237 and 119. What's my next step? Underline the question. What is the question? How many books will they have left? That's correct. What's our next step? Box the keywords. Do you see any keywords? Have left. Very good. And what's our next step? Eliminate extra information. Is there any extra information? There is. That whole first sentence. Nothing is circled, nothing is underlined. So I don't need that sentence to help me solve the problem. And last is going to be solve and label our work. We know have left tells us to do what? Subtract. So what's our equation going to be? They collected 237. They're giving away 119. So that's going to be my equation. 237 minus 119. Now I always take the subtrahend and I break it up into expanded notation. So if I break 119, it's going to be 100 plus 10 plus 9. And then I'm going to subtract in those steps. I'm going to subtract 100 first. So 237 minus 100, what would that be? I'm just doing the hundreds place. 137. What are we going to subtract next? 10, that's right. So I'm just going to take that away from the tens place. What would that answer be? 127. And our last one would be what? 127 minus 9. So I've done my hundreds, my tens, and my ones. Now, we know that's going to be 118. I can count backwards 9, but the question is, how did I take 9 from that 7? I regrouped. Let's look at how we regroup. I know, I brought the blocks back. So I have my 127 because that's where we left off. And I have to subtract 9. So I start crossing them off, but I still have 2 X's left. I've got to find some ones. Where can I find some ones? In the tens, that's right, because we said that we're going to rearrange it. So I'm going to turn that 110 into how many ones? 10, that's right, because 10 ones makes a 10. So I'm moving that over here and I'm rearranging it. And now I can take away my next 2. So then I still have my 100. I only have one 10 now, so that's 110, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. And that's how it works. So our label is Mason and Marquise have 118 books left. Now, are you ready? Our last one today is going to be tricky. It's going to require a lot of thinking, and I'm going to walk you through it and help you see how to do it. So our next one, read this with me. Ethan and Michaela were collecting stickers. Michaela collected 345 stickers. Ethan collected 120 less than Michaela. How many stickers did they collect altogether? Now, what's the first step? Circle the numbers. What are the numbers? 345 and 120. What's our next step? Underline the question. What's the question? How many stickers did they collect altogether? What do we do next? Box the keywords. Be careful on this one. We have 2 sets of keywords. Ooh, that might give you an idea of what we're going to need to do. I have less than and altogether. I wonder if I need them both. Here's a clue. You will. What's the next step? Eliminate extra information. Is there any extra information? There is. That first sentence again. Nothing is circled, nothing's boxed, nothing's underlined. So we have to get rid of that. We don't need that sentence to solve the problem. And last is going to be solve and label our work. Now, we have a problem here. We have 2 things we have to figure out. We have to figure out how many they collected all together. So we have 345 plus Ethan's number. Well, what is Ethan's number? We don't know. Here's how we're going to figure that out. So we know to figure out the altogether, I need Ethan's number, but I need to figure out how to find out Ethan's number. And it says that he collected 120 less than Michaela. So Ethan's number, I just put an X there, is 345, which is what Michaela collected, minus 120. So we can't solve the addition question until I've done the subtraction. So I need the less than for this one, and I need the altogether for this one. But remember, we can't do this until we've done this. Sometimes when you get a word problem, you have to do one equation before you can do the other equation. And that's what we're going to do today. Let's get started. I'll walk you through it. Pay attention. So what is Ethan's number? 345 minus 120 is Ethan's number. So let's go ahead and find out. And I'm going to keep this second equation down here at the bottom just for a little while so we don't forget. We still have to do that. Don't ever forget to do that or your answer will not be correct. So let's go ahead and subtract. Again, we're going to expanded notation. I'm going to break up 120. The subtrahend is going to get broken up. And I'm going to subtract 100 first. So 345 minus 100, just the hundreds place. What is it? 245. Now I'm going to subtract the tens place. What's in the tens place? 20, that's right. So 245, which is where I left off, minus 20. I'm just subtracting 2 tens. 225. Are there any ones to subtract? No. So do I know Ethan's number now? I do. What's Ethan's number? 225. That's right. So now we can go ahead and go back to our second equation. How many did they collect all together? We have to add. So I'm going to add Michaela's number, 345, plus Ethan's number, 225. So I'm going to take Ethan's number and I'm going to break it up again, expanded notation. 200 plus 20 plus 5. I know you knew that. And I'm going to start adding. So 345 plus 20. 545. Now I'm going to add my tens. 545 plus 20. I'm just adding the tens place. 565. That's right. Now I'm going to add the ones. So I'm going to add 565 plus 5, and that's 570. So Michaela and Ethan have 570 stickers altogether. This is a tricky question. You may have to go back and watch this part again to help you solve another one day. And that's okay. It'll be here. Until next time, thanks for staying to the end. Have a wonderful day.